And people come in. So welcome, my name is Yvonne Schwartz, I'm the town supervisor. We're here tonight to go over the proposed revised zoning law and subdivision law. To give you a broad overview of it. On my left is Travis Du Bois, member of the town council, Ian Halfon, Daryl Griff. Farther over is Sue Reimers, you all know Sue. She's the person that keeps us organized, on track, technologically up to date, everything. We would not be having this meeting without her. There's no doubt. So, and also very importantly tonight with us is Nan Stolzenberg. In your packet, you'll see a very nice write-up about Nan, all her talents and experience. And I think the town has been really, really fortunate to have her working with us. She began working with us back in, let's see.
2013.
Yeah, 2013. To help us develop the town comprehensive plan. And if any of you remember that, we were here, we were in Hubbardsville, we were in Earlville about 2017, actually, or probably 16 and 17, doing the same thing, making a presentation, getting your involvement. What did you want? What was your vision for the town? What was important? And we passed that law in 2017. And one of the primary things, the law, basically, we passed the comprehensive plan. And one of the primary directions of the comprehensive plan is bring your zoning and subdivision laws into compliance. If you want to preserve open space, if you want to support local businesses, if you want to plan where residential development takes place in your community, then you need to make sure your zoning law aligns with that. So by August of 2017, we started up with a committee of volunteers, some of whom are here today. They weren't on the town board then. They were either on the planning board or they were just roped into it, I think, some of them. And we, they were interested, and they were members of the planning board as well as members of the town board that are not part of this, long since retired. And so they began meeting and developing the revised zoning law, looking at our existing law, which was much, much shorter. I'm sure you've noticed that this one is a lot longer. We regret to say that's true, but it's what we have. So, and tonight the process is going to be, Nan is going to present the outline, the PowerPoint presentation of it, answer some questions, try to give you some background as to why communities, why we've chosen these methods and what revisions were made. And then you all will have an opportunity to come up and ask your questions, make your comments if you have any. Just, we're asking you to come to the podium so that you can properly record your comments so other people will have them. This is step one. This is the public information session. It's not a public hearing. We're kind of trying to keep it a little formal in terms of just to make sure that everybody gets heard. And we are able to capture your comments. And we'll think. Oh, I know, I left out one really important thing about Nan, which is not in that page. Not only has she been here all this time, but Nan comes from a community very similar to ours, down south of us, in Schoharie County. Her husband's a dairy farmer. Nan's lived there for, I don't know how many years. 42 years. Okay. And when I first met Nan, she had kids. Now she has 2 grandchildren, and both of us have much grayer hair. So we're here tonight. We're still standing, and we're here tonight to bring this chapter to a close, hopefully. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Nan.
Okay, great. Do you want me to stand or
You can do it. Yeah, I think you stand.
Okay, that's fine. I will do that. So
Sorry, Nan, is it better if I turn off the lights?
I'm supposed to try that. Thanks.
People, okay, let's see.
is that a little better?
Is that better?
Better for some of you? That's.
Okay, great. Thanks. So I'm gonna walk you through the kind of the hows and the whys and give you some highlights of what some of the methods are that are incorporated in the zoning. But I wanted to build on something that Eva Ann said, is that in my work is all with small and rural communities, very much like Hamilton. And what I have found in countless places across New York is that many rural communities adopted zoning laws long time ago, the 1960s, 1970s, even into the 1980s, that they kind of, zoning has a bad habit of borrowing from other communities. And there's a reason why pretty much everywhere you go, you see things that look like everywhere else. So, you know, you go to like, you know, big, Erie Boulevard and Syracuse, Wolf Road in Albany, I don't know what's in Rochester, Buffalo, suburbs, they all kind of look alike. And there's a reason for that. The reason is that they all have similar zoning that did not capture the uniqueness of the community that they were trying to plan in. And so the comprehensive plan in Hamilton, and then what we're trying to do here with this zoning is make it for you. Make it so that it reaches your desires and your values and the things you want to see in town. And so it incorporates some different techniques and methods that you don't see in urban areas and you don't see in suburbs. That's because this is a rural area. And so I just wanted to kind of add that little bit of introduction to start with. So we're gonna I'm gonna go over some highlights of the zoning and the subdivision. We're gonna take a deeper dive a little bit into some of these techniques. So why, kind of reiterating what Evan said, why are we doing this? How did we get it done? So when the comprehensive plan is finished, you should think of the comprehensive plan as the roadmap or the policy statement. So this part 1 and part 2 of the comprehensive plan is like a big policy statement. It sets out what the town wants to accomplish, why it wants to accomplish, what the community had to say about it. And so once that's done, there's one legal implication for having a comprehensive plan in New York State, and that is that your land use laws, that's your zoning law, your site plan, or any other standalone laws that relate to land use must be in accordance with a comprehensive plan. And that's because we don't do local laws that just poof out of the air to say we're going to regulate you. There's a reason for these regulations, and those reasons are outlined in the comprehensive plan. So the first reason why this update is happening is to ensure that the town's land use laws are consistent with the comprehensive plan that was adopted. It's also to make sure the state laws change, and the reason the town can do zoning and site plan and all of these things is because the state gives the authority to the town to make those laws. And so in turn, the processes like the subdivision process, the timeframes, the fact that you have to have public hearings and how many days you have to give public notice, all of that actually comes from state law, not from town law. And sometimes, like in Hamilton, we see that the state law says one thing and the town's land use regulations say something else. So the second piece of why we're doing this is to make sure that the town's land use laws meet the same procedural requirements that are required of it from state law. Same thing with Ag and Markets Law, which is Ag and Markets Law 25 AA, which governs the agricultural, New York State agricultural districts. That has a lot to say about how a town can regulate agricultural operations. So part of this work was to integrate and make sure we're up to date. The other reason of the why is we want to make the zoning clear. We want the planning board and the ZBA to have the tools it needs, the definitions it needs. We want everyone to be able to read what's on the page and understand what it means without a lot of legalese and, you know, all of the heretofore and therefores and all of the things that zoning laws used to be written as. So we want this to be clear. We want to bring in flexibility where flexibility is important. We want it to be efficient. We don't want projects to, you know, linger in the process for years. And really, a good zoning law really should be developed in the way that it says, we're gonna outline our community's expectations. And if you meet those expectations, it's a yes at the end. So that there's, we take some of that, not sure if we can do it, and change the rules midstream. That's what makes it inefficient. So we try to find ways to make this efficient. We want to address the major issues in town: housing, smart growth, be farm friendly, and to protect the environment, all of which are things that came from the policies established in the comprehensive plan. So how we got to this point is Evan talked about the comprehensive plan was adopted in 2017. They formed the zoning review committee who worked several years to get the groundwork and move this forward. Like many things, their work was interrupted by COVID. But the town council, the planning board, ZBA, and community members have been involved in this in one way or another for quite a long time. And the town board, the town council started having special board meetings in 2021 to pick up where the ZRC had left off. So the kind of the pause that we had in COVID actually resulted and made, not just in Hamilton, but made lots of places aware that there were changes that had happened in the community that needed to be addressed. Here in Hamilton, some of the changes that kind of emerged to be addressed were local real estate demand, coupled with a shortage of housing, including conversion of some houses to short-term rentals, and recognizing the need for affordable housing. It's not that the plan didn't recognize that, but it really, as statewide, has become a huge issue statewide since COVID. So while we've been working on this for quite a number of years, there actually have been a lot of other efforts that have been started and concluded. So the board, or the town council worked on updating their flood damage prevention law, which I think was the first one that we did after the plan was adopted. I forget if it was the first one or not, but it was soon after. They worked on developing a solar law to regulate solar facilities, and the short-term rental law. So it was a pivot, again, within the confines of the comprehensive plan, but a lot has really been happening over a few years. And I'd also wanted to say about the length. I did want to mention, when Evan mentioned the length of it is longer than the first one. I understand that longer often makes people like, wow, you're really regulating this, really like a lot of stuff here. I look at it though, as we've been clear that we've outlined a lot of definitions, and we've outlined all of the steps, and we have language in there that makes it actually easier for people to know what the process and the rules are. So I wouldn't be so concerned about the length, because we've tried to make it less vague. So there has been continuous review as the ZRC and the council have been working on this. The town attorney has been involved. I've been involved in various places in the process. The county planning department has been involved. So let's jump into what are some of the broad highlights that you'll see changed in the zoning. The first one is we have updated the purposes of the law, which I think I should have put in big letters, because that's a really important one. The purposes of a law need to align with the comprehensive plan, and it outlines why you have regulations. Again, so we didn't just poof them out of the air. They're there for a reason. So we've updated them to kind of integrate into the vision and goals set in the comprehensive plan. We've added reader aid boxes, which are little explanatory boxes, so that as you're reading the zoning and you see like, gee, I don't really know what that is, we've added in places that gives hopefully more clarity about what what those topics are. We clarified the enforcement process, which is really important to make for efficient enforcement. We've tried to improve the readability by adding, consolidating, for instance, the dimensions table and the use table into a table instead of narrative. So we put it all in one place. We made some changes to the zoning map that we're going to look at in a minute. And this last one is an important concept in rural areas, is that it emphasizes the use of density rather than the minimum lot size to control how many houses or how dwelling units can go into an area. When you separate out density, which tells you how many houses can there be on this parcel, versus minimum lot size, you actually give the landowner a lot more flexibility to create smaller lots, larger lots, different size lots. It creates the ability to have smaller lots that are more affordable, and ability to preserve open space and environmental features a lot easier when you have a minimum lot size that simply requires everybody to have a minimum lot size. And it spreads the development out across the landscape that way. So the changes are, are designed to what we call smart growth, which is really trying to focus the appropriate growth in appropriate areas that have the ability to handle that development. Why? Is because we want to preserve the town's character, your open spaces and your agriculture, at the same time while we're promoting housing growth and affordability. So kind of opposite goals that we're trying to mesh together. Some of the techniques, some of the other things that we've added in here, you'll see a lot about the conservation subdivision technique, which is a layout on, like, when you have a subdivision where the parcels are created. And the provision of affordable housing, those kind of were the topics that rose to the top. We have allowed for what's called lot size averaging. So instead of having every lot look like every other lot with the same exact dimensions, which is what a suburb is, or a village is, the lot size averaging again allows, it's an easy way to allow different size lots to be created on the parcel. As long as they equal the average, I mean, the whatever it is for that district, whatever the density is allowed in that district. We've added some supplemental standards for certain uses so that the town can clearly outline the performance expectations of that use. We've also consolidated the other two laws that I mentioned, the solar law, which was originally a standalone law, and the flood damage prevention. So they're now integrated into the zoning. So it's kind of like a one-stop shop. They're all in one place. We spent a lot of time looking at the zoning to make sure that it was farm friendly. And farm friendly means that we added a variety of agricultural uses as allowed uses to the use table. We have removed some barriers to having multiple businesses on a farm, and made it much more aligned with the ag districts law. And we've added new definitions. That's for those of you who might be on the planning board or the zoning board, that's just really important, is to have a good set of definitions so everybody knows what words we're talking about. And the last one is that we updated the special use permit and the site plan review procedures. So now they're aligned with the state rules in terms of the days, having a public hearing, how long you have to make, the planning board has to make a decision after the hearing closes and so forth. As I mentioned, so this is subdivision. So we went through a similar process with the subdivision law and looked at it and said, where are there areas that we can strengthen this to help better meet the town's goals? Again, we matched the purposes with the comprehensive plan. We updated the definitions and the procedures to be set with New York State town subdivision law. We added in some new general requirements and design and siting standards to make sure that the new homes and new dwelling units that do come into Hamilton are done in a way that broadly meets the agriculture, environmental, rural character kinds of goals that the town has. The subdivision law has a new section to implement the conservation subdivision section. And we've updated the types of submissions. So we've updated the kind of information that an applicant would need to bring to the planning board. So hopefully it's all laid out. The applicant knows what needs to come in, and the planning board then it has all the information it needs to make an efficient decision. So we're trying to avoid what typically happens is someone applies, the planning board says, we need X, they supply X, then the planning board says, well, now we need Y. That's what makes it inefficient. So we've tried to lay that all out in the beginning. So let's talk a little bit more about some of those zoning specifics. We're going to go through quickly each one of these kinds of methods that we included in the zoning. I mentioned before, it's because the purpose statements are consistent with the comp plan, which really added emphasis in the zoning on Hamilton being small town, rural nature, agriculture, and natural resources, which were not really like emphasized in the original set of purpose statements. And we've added in another thing in the purpose statements about resiliency and recovery from extreme weather events that we're all experiencing lately. Oops. Did I skip one here? Okay. So this map was in the comprehensive plan. It's a little hard to see. It's actually in a pink color, but this is a foundation for understanding the environmental sensitivities in Hamilton. So this map was created to show wherever you see that darker color, indicates that there's some combination of environmental features there. They may be wetlands, streams, floodplains, or steep slopes are included in there. So you can, the dark areas represent some potential building challenges. It doesn't say you can't build, it just says there are environmental features there that are important to the town that we have to pay attention to. And the white areas are those that are clear, they're probably forested, largely forested or farmland. So this map we used a lot to help us look at how is the current pattern of development in Hamilton stack up to the environmental features and the sensitivities that you have. The map is a little hard to tell. Let me see, I think I have a laser here. So the map, this is the proposed zoning map. Here's the village. And here, this area that I'm outlining here is an extended or expanded RD area. Kind of one of the philosophies of rural development is to focus more growth in the areas that
RD?
Oh, I'm sorry, residential district. Sorry, residential district. So this area here, closer to the village, is the notion is that we focus growth in areas that are closer to our traditional areas of development. This larger green area out here is the agricultural ARD, the agricultural residential district. And the proposed zoning there's a commercial district down here, Poolville. And then this area here has been added as another commercial area because the current zoning allows actually quite a lot of pretty high scale or potentially intensive commercial growth anywhere in town. And so what we wanted to do and what the comprehensive plan called for was to encourage small businesses and business growth, but not everywhere. So there's existing businesses along here, so the council is proposing to establish this commercial district out along.
So is that Market Road?
Yep,
Yeah, Mark's walking north
that's right,
on 12. On 12.
500
By
feet
the-
on either side,
Okay, so it starts at Market and goes.
goes up to the town line, yep, and then the commercial zone that that already existed, which was, it was not in the residential district previously, we reformatted that to match, so it's 500 feet on either side. In the same area, maybe we added a few parcels, I do think we did, we tried to make it more consistent. So that one, that commercial district has always been there. Good Nature Brewery, for example, landed there, then the village incorporated it, just to give you like some perspective. And then Nan just kind of jumped over, Poolville is a separate hamlet district in the zoning law that's treated differently in the rules, because it's residential, but it's surrounded by, it's got its own separate, very intense development, houses close together. And so
It always has, we didn't change that.
yeah, we didn't change that, but if the Hamlet of Poolville wanted to have a separate set of zoning rules, so those are the basic districts.
So as I mentioned before, currently, the amount of building that's allowed in Hamilton is governed by the establishment of a minimum lot size. Basically, across the town, it's a minimum a minimum lot size of 1 acre. And so when the plan was done and all of the analysis was done, it was determined that if you build out the town of Hamilton at 1 acre minimum lot sizes over time, has the potential to erode all of the things that the community said it wanted in terms of open space, rural character, low density development. 1 acre is, 1 acre lots everywhere was really not something that the community, when the plan was written, was what the community wanted. So we were proposing that we move away from lot size. We give people more flexibility to create smaller or larger lots. But we control density, meaning how many homes can go into an area by what's called density. And that's measured as the number of dwellings per acre. So it's different than you need 1 acre per, or 5, some communities have 5 or 10 acres per dwelling, means someone has to buy a really big lot in order to put a house in. We wanted to get away from that. We wanted to control how many, what the ultimate housing population will be, but not on the 1 acre level. So we also recognize that there's a lot of lots in town that are already small. And we don't want to penalize folks who have small lots now, and we want them to be able to develop those lots or do whatever they can do with them. So you'll see in the zoning kind of a split in terms of how we dealt with this density issue by, is the current lot size less than 20 acres or is the current lot size greater than 20 acres as kind of the split of how we're going to set and change the density to better meet the goals of the comprehensive plan. So we started off with the plan actually talked about something called sliding scale zoning, which the ZRC worked on for quite a while. And that's basically the thought that the lots that are already split up, they're already split up. And we can do a better job, those can be developed, and we can do a better job with doing more rural oriented development on the bigger lots. That got a little complicated, and so like I said, it got simplified to allowing higher density on the smaller lots that are already small and cut up, and treating the large lots greater than 20 acres with a different density. So currently the ag residential district density is if you have greater than 20 acres, lots, that it would be one dwelling per 4 acres instead of the 1 acre minimum lot size. But, and that's a very important but, the council has included incentives to get that density down. And that's by using a conservation subdivision style development to preserve open space, allows the density to go from 1 dwelling unit per 4 acres to 1 dwelling unit per 2 acres. Again, with a flexibility of the lot sizes within that. So when you build out a system like this, that it will direct more residential growth to the residential district, that one closer to the village, by allowing for keeping the 1 acre lot sizes that we have. We also have addressed some housing things have been addressed a lot, but one of the housing techniques that's been included has been allowing accessory dwelling units, 1 accessory dwelling unit per single family dwelling that doesn't count towards density. So you can add on to your house, you can take your porch and turn it into an apartment, or your garage into apartment, or have a tiny house added in as a detached building as an accessory dwelling unit. The accessory dwelling unit is currently the preferred, I shouldn't say the preferred, but it's like the first, I'm escaping me the word what it is, but it's the first go-to technique for addressing housing, is to allow people to have accessory dwelling units. If you look in the use table, you'll see that the types of housing that are allowed in Hamilton is expanded to different types of housing, tiny houses, senior housing, addressing farm worker housing in a much more easy, straightforward manner. So this is, I know it's kind of hard to see with the colors here, with lights, but this map over here shows all of those parcels in town that are less than 20 acres in size. So all of these blue areas are parcels that are less than 20 acres in size. And there's 767 parcels that are less than 20 acres. Those are the parcels that this zoning doesn't change the density. It's still going to be the 1 dwelling per 1 acre. These parcels that are in aquamarine, I guess, is 287 parcels in town that are 20 acres and larger. Those are the parcels that are affected by the proposed change in density, but have the incentive to get more density by providing open space through a conservation subdivision. And we've added in other density bonuses as well.
Yeah, do you want to talk a little bit about the affordabilities that?
Yes, I'm gonna get there.
All right.
Yep. So, this is, again, I think I've talked about this density, you know, and I know everyone is used to, minimum lot size. Everyone understands what a minimum lot size is. And then when you start thinking about density, it's like, scratch your head, what the heck is density? So it's really, like I said, I think, especially in rural areas, when you uncouple minimum lot size from how many houses or how many units you get, you can do a much better job of development that way. So density is measured as dwellings per acre. It gives us, you know, we can have more housing on less land, improved affordability, and all of the things that go along with that kind of flexibility. The minimum lot size is the one that kind of artificially limits the housing supply. And it really creates what we call rural sprawl. Low density development in rural areas is, if you look at the map of Hamilton current building, you'll see it's just spread out everywhere. So how can we protect the things that the community says that you value and you love at the same time that we have growth? That's what we're trying to do. We're trying to balance protecting the things that make Hamilton Hamilton while we allow for growth and development. So just to kind of home in on why this was such an important concept to incorporate into the zoning is that there's been lots of evaluation of what low density sprawl does in a community. And we see that there are over time, we lose farmland and natural habitats. It increases gas emissions as more people move in and have to drive. There are high economic costs that go along with it. It reduces the agricultural economy. It can strain municipal budgets as they serve a broader residential population that's spread out. Very difficult to provide infrastructure when it's spread out across the landscape like that. It also promotes, lots of car dependency, and especially in aging. All of upstate New York has aging communities. We have people who are isolated, they can't drive, they can't get to places. So there's all sorts of social consequences that go along with this kind of low spread out pattern. And it's really, it's been shown to erode the actual character of the community that we sought out to protect in this whole process. So knowing that the council has been very sensitive to the impacts of changing this from minimum lot size to density, and changing it from a 1 acre minimum lot size to one dwelling per 4 acres. There's certainly understanding that that is a change. And so we've included several techniques to give bonuses to get higher density back in return for things that are of value to the people in Hamilton. So the first one is we have a series of density bonuses that we're proposing that allows for higher density on lots that are the bigger lots that we've removed that density. Again, in exchange for these public benefits. So the first one is, as I mentioned before, in the ag rural district or ag residential district, the voluntary use of a conservation subdivision. Great, if you want to just cut up and split up a 100-acre lot into one dwelling per 4 acres and put in a standard subdivision, that's an option. But if you want to get more density, it allows it to go using the conservation subdivision, which requires 50% of the parcel to be preserved as open space. Doesn't change the density. So if you're eligible for 50 houses, you still get 50 houses. You just have to cluster them and move them so that some of the lot is preserved. The other public benefit that this zoning is looking for is to provide affordable housing. And so we have offered 30 to 50% higher density when affordable housing is provided. And that is defined based on median family incomes from here. And that would be affordable housing are deed restricted units. So they're basically, it's written right into the deed that you would have keep that unit or units available as below market rate for whatever the time period is, whatever 20 years or 30 years or whatever. Some communities do it for 50 years. So you get a density bonus if you provide for affordable housing. There's also a density bonus for providing for public access and recreation to some sort of preserved land or environmental, a trail or some unique area. So the council thought that was really important to promote public access and recreation to these open spaces. So there's a 20% bonus added on. And I'm gonna go through a couple of examples so you can see how this works. I mentioned before the lot averaging, and that basically allows a large parcel to be split up, but split up into different ways so that you can have a small lot, a medium-sized lot, and a larger lot, provided that the size of these all average out to be whatever the overall density is set for that district. Again, it's really a very small section in the zoning that allows for lot averaging, but it can be very powerful, and it allows small minor subdivisions to be lots of different goals can be met by, if someone wants to split off, you can still split off an acre if you want. But that leaves you other options as well, as long as it's averaged ultimately together. So here's a couple of examples. So here we are in the residential district. You have a 10-acre lot. And the rule is still 1 dwelling unit per 1 acre. So on a 10-acre lot, you would get 10 dwelling units. And they've set a rule for the RD district that if 25% of the total parcel, 10 acres, is preserved, then you get a density bonus. So instead of getting a base of 10 dwelling units, if you preserved 2.5 acres as kept it open, then you would actually get 13 dwelling units. And those could be single family houses or 2-family houses or whatever kind of housing is allowed in the RD district. So it could be one building, or it could be several buildings, or it could be all single family.
I think we should put 7.5 acres. I think there's just a little typo.
Oh,
7.5.
7.5, right, sorry,
No,
just noticed that.
that's the
Thank
only
you.
typo I've seen.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then it's similar with affordable housing. So this is, if the rule that's set is if 25% of the dwelling units that you want to build are dedicated as affordable, you get a density bonus. So, this example is, that you would get 2.5 bonus units, we round up. And so the 10 dwelling units base plus 3 would give you 13 dwelling units on 10 acres, with 3 of those dedicated to affordable housing. So there's a whole section in the zoning that outlines these density bonuses. Again, the notion is to give people an opportunity to have density, especially in the RD district where we want more density, as well as providing those amenities that are important, been identified as important to the town. In the ag residential district, I'll say we're going to do an example of the 20-acre lot. So this is where I talked, if you want to do just a plain old conventional subdivision, it's 1 dwelling per 4 acres, you get 5 units. But if you design that same subdivision, that same parcel with a conservation subdivision, it goes down to 1 dwelling per 2 acres. So instead of the 5 units, you get 10 units. And you can add on to that an affordable housing density bonus. So if you wanted even more density, you could provide some of those. If you provided half of those units as affordable, you get 100% density bonus, or 10 more units. So you could potentially, with a conservation subdivision and dedicating half of the units to affordable housing, you could get up to 20 units. So again, the zoning builds in this notion that of a better way, the comprehensive plan envisions is a more effective way of balancing development and the needs for housing with environmental protection and open space. Some other things that we've added in what's called a modified site plan review. This is really oriented to the farm farm-related businesses. Most farm-related businesses, we're not looking to regulate them. The Ag and Markets law at the state level is very clear that in a New York State ag district, that you cannot over-regulate farm businesses. But the state recognizes that some farm businesses, like intensive pick operations and things like that, have aspects of it that could be disruptive to neighbors. You know, there could be a lot of traffic, there could be buses pulling up, there could be noise. Some farm operations have concerts and things like that. So the modified site plan review is something that's consistent with state guidance on how to do an abbreviated review for these more intensive, more agritourism kind of operations. It's not oriented to big farms with lots of livestock or, lots of crops. It's really oriented to those uses that have lots of people coming in. So that's in there. Some specific subdivision, almost getting to the end. Some of the things that are in the subdivision is this notion of paying more attention during subdivision review to the building envelope. Usually just the boundaries are looked at, and that's all great, but it's actually where the house and the driveway go that is impacting the environment. And so we've incorporated review of the building envelope to make sure that the future home or homes or buildings on that subdivided lot will be put in the location that's best suited for development. So that has been a new kind of review aspect that's been added in to get really more exciting. Some other design and siting things that we've included in has been buffers between major subdivisions and existing farm operations to make sure that there's some separation between them. We've added in wanting to have some space along streams that remain unbuildable to protect that really critical, what's called a riparian area. Trying to, again, look at the building envelope and put it in the appropriate place. So if someone can still farm part of the field, they can have a house tucked off to the side and still farm it. Cul-de-sac limitations, you can't really get away from cul-de-sacs in some places, but they're typically very suburban style streets. So we're added in other mechanisms to have better layouts of subdivisions so that they're not end up looking like a suburb. We've added in dark sky standards to put in shielded lights so that they don't shine out into the environment, and placement away from important natural features. This is just a picture. This is not here. This is somewhere else. This is just kind of the general pattern that we see in rural areas. So you can see this has all been farmland. Here's the main road, and you can see that this farm was cut up into very large lots with a couple cul-de-sacs. This is the kind of spread out development pattern that we hope to avoid, or we hope to change and do it a little better. And we can do it better through that conservation subdivision technique. So what that does is it basically takes the lots that you can develop, the number of homes that you can develop, and strategically locate them on the site in a way to preserve the most open space or farmland. And it's done in a very deliberate method, where we start with understanding what needs to be conserved first, then locating the house site, that's the building envelope, then putting in the street and the trail, or trails if you wanted to. Here's we have a cul-de-sac. It's very hard to do these without having at least one in there. And then the lot lines get drawn in at the very end, which is a complete flip of how subdivisions are done now. Now subdivisions are done, you hire a surveyor, the surveyor goes out and says, oh, you get 10 lots, I'm just drawing 10 lines. This is a design based on the characteristics of that parcel. So a significant portion of the parcel is left preserved. The conservation subdivision does not change the density. It's a layout technique. It's where those buildings go that matters. So this is really what we're looking for. This is that kind of rural sprawl pattern where you see all of these houses and the entire landscape is taken up with large lots and homes spread out versus a conservation subdivision that strategically locates these based on the characteristics of the parcel, so to preserve that open space. So that's like a really fast, high level review of all of these things. Just to let you know, the next steps, the town council still has their environmental review of this, so they have to ask the question, are there any adverse environmental impacts that will come about if they adopt this law or these laws? They will be holding a public hearing. And then assuming that all goes well, and they decide to, then they will adopt it as a local law. And so the text of both the subdivision law and the zoning law, as well as you have highlights of these in your packet, and then the texts are available to read online on what town's website. So that's leave it to the board to do questions.
Sure. Great, thank you, Dan. That's really helpful. So we're gonna do this somewhat formally, just so we brought over a microphone to make sure your voice can be heard. It's always hard to tell whether it's necessary and recorded.
Turn it on, or
I don't know. What do you think? How much, I mean.
let's see with the first speaker how he said.
Yeah.
All right, without some, okay, right. So if you have a question or a comment, just, I guess, stand up though. Maybe you don't even need to stand up for now. Just give us your name and your address and fire away. And then if we can't hear you well enough, it seems really good. When we're sitting at the town office, we're like, oh, are we be able to hear it? What if there's a lot of people? So that's why we did all this, but maybe it's not necessary. Have you been able to hear everything pretty clearly?
Yes.
Okay, great. Does anybody have a question or a comment?
Laura Wilson, I'm from representing Hamilton Village Real Estate. And that's in the village of Hamilton, but I live in the town of Madison. But my question is, if you look at the bonuses, you could potentially get a lot less than half acre. This question.
I'm trying to remember, did we have? I think it depends on the type of infrastructure that you have. So whether there's individual septic systems that are needed, or whether there would be like a community level system, like if there's, if it was just like 2 new houses, you wouldn't have, an engineered system like that. But yes, I think it's designed to be flexible to allow for that.
Thank you. Come on.
There you
Go ahead.
Just quickly, wouldn't a minimum.
Introduce yourself.
Sorry, Chris Rossi, live in Hamilton, and the lot size of. Some of it would be dictated by county health laws as well, right?
Oh, yes.
For how small you could go. Yep.
Absolutely. So unless you were having like an engineered system that met those things, that an individual lot would still have to, that has a septic system, would still have to meet the lot size and the perk and the separation between well and septic system. So yeah, I mean, if you have a place that has really poor soils, you might need more than an acre of lot of size to get a septic system in. But some places, maybe not.
And it is possible in other communities where they have rural development, sub-developments, and they don't have a direct connection to an existing sewer system. They do put in package plans for multiple houses. We've just never done it here in our town, but it does happen in other places. So it's kind of a new frontier for us that we might be exploring. And because at this point we're really limited how far the village of Hamilton is, so far not really willing to extend out into the town without it being incorporated into the village. Maybe that'll change over time. I don't know.
It shouldn't.
It should. Okay. The mayor doesn't think it'll change. I'm always optimistic. But
Incorporation, yes.
yeah,
And
sure, sure. But anyway, those are things that we can't control that. And we do know that there are alternatives. We did spend some time talking about it. And we thought, well, really, if that happens, when we get a developer, let's say there's someone who wants to develop in the residential zone relatively close to the town. And there are some parcels that are kind of ripe for that development on large parcels. I think we'll just cross that bridge when we get there, and it'll still have to meet the the standards of the public health department. It doesn't stop the developer from coming forth and saying, here, I want to put 10 houses here, and I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna put one well that serves all the houses. We don't need 10 we don't need 10 wells, and one common system to manage the septic, so large scale. So I hope does that help?
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah. Yep, I'm sorry, I don't know your name.
Wade Berger,
Okay,
in your proposed changes to the zoning laws, there's the addition to the commercial district on Route 12, North Larkin,
Yep.
North Brookfield.
Mhm.
How was that decided, the line to go north, or why not south? Where was that? How was that decided?
decided. Well, I would say that to begin with, it's where development was actually taking place, right? So the few larger businesses that have developed in our town outside of the village have been on Route 12. They just fuels or, Bordels rather, excuse me. Excel Motorsports, it's happened. And it's a state highway. It has access, good access to additional roads. So it's kind of a logical place for development to take place. So I think, and initially we talked about making it go all the way down to Willey Road. And stopping it at Willey Road, because at that point, New York State doesn't, the New York State Route 12 doesn't allow more access roads, so more driveways. So that was like a logical place to stop. And then I think we got some feedback from people saying, well, maybe that was too much too soon. I mean, we talked about having a second commercial district back in 2017, and it's like, okay, we don't really know what we want. And now it seems, since that time, those businesses located there. So it just seemed logical to us. And Larkin Road is kind of a halfway point, not even halfway to Willey. Where's Willey on there? Come down, it's right on the edge. Yeah, yes.
The topography off on both sides of Route
Yeah.
12 from Willey Road back up to Larkin is kind of steep. So to go back to our 500 feet.
Yeah.
Really wasn't that wasn't gonna be buildable property, so it wasn't any real sense of putting a commercial district in there. And then when you get into East Hamilton, of course, it's highly residential. So we just went beyond it, went up through to where the existing commercial properties were, and extended that out to the end of the town of Hamilton.
That sort of makes sense.
Yeah, I understand Route 12, I was just wondering why Larkin Road weren't, and not the whole thing.
Yeah, I think we're being cautious, to be honest. I mean, we don't know how the community, it's really hard to know what people are, we had a planning board member, we reviewed this whole proposed law with the planning board and the zoning board of appeals. And one of those members was like, oh, I don't think you should have, should not be, but what about all those houses that are there along Route 12? And we we're like, well, yeah, those folks decided to buy a lot and build a house along Route 12, it's a major highway, you kind of lost your rural character a long time ago. So I think then there may be other people that feel that same way that are not here tonight. We don't know. So we were trying to, at some point, I think we realized that this law isn't going to fix everything, and that 2 years from now or 4 years from now, the town council can decide to amend it if the commercial zone goes really well and people like it, and there's demand from property owners to expand it. You know, then they can come to the town council at the time and say, hey, you know, this is working. Could we, you know, if you own land there and you'd like to see it expanded, I think you do, don't you? Yeah, now that I think about it, I know who you are. I think I know who you are, anyway. So if do you have the old Cranston farm? But, okay, so, isn't that farm? Yeah, anyway, sorry.
The other thing about it is, because we talked about this at the town council meetings, is that, over time, strip development along highways that's what it becomes. It becomes strip development along highways, and that was not really consistent with the vision that the town had. So we tried to find a place that was, as Evan said, you know, conducive and logical, but not overdo it to prevent or to promote a development pattern that's, you know, not really rural.
Right, and we did change, if you look at the use table, if you compare, like there is online, there's we call a red line version that you could see. The old uses and then the new uses. We tried to take away some of the uses that were in the ag residential district that would have just been, at this point, I think inappropriate, you know, like too big. And move those, allow those in the commercial district and just try to encourage those larger developments in that area that are gonna take up a lot of space. You know, maybe it'll be a car dealership someday, who knows, you know, maybe it'll be a warehouse. But you know, the use table is our attempt to direct that development as best we could and still try to protect the open space. But, you know, 50 years from now, it's gonna look different. We know that, you know. Let's see.
Hoteling, to follow up on the commercial.
Yep.
Is the 500 feet, is that how much can be developed commercially, or is that the parcel? If a parcel is in 500 feet,
It's the amount of the parcel.
so if you have a 100-acre parcel.
Yep,
The whole parcel is not.
that's correct. It's
Commercial.
what's 500 feet from the center line of the road. Is what is in the commercial district. On either side of the road. And so if you own on one side and you might own on both sides, you might only own on one side, so go to the center line and go back 500 feet. And as Daryl said, that's the area that we think is most, you know, is flatter. And as soon as you get 500 feet up, and a lot of those, you know, you start to go up the hill. It's not, nobody's gonna wanna build, you know, a building, a commercial building up the hill. They're gonna wanna stay on the flat. So we know we're using some, you know, we know we're proposing some really good land could get used, some really good agricultural land could get used for commercial development. But now that, and under the existing law, lots of really good land could get used for commercial development. So we're trying to find a balance. Does that help to understand?
Yeah, it does. I
Yeah,
was
well-
thinking as well, the housing and
Yep.
in one section of that is pretty concentrated.
Yeah, I mean, they're compromises, I guess that's what but if we let it happen everywhere. Then more, you know, that would be more random, and maybe in the future, this gives people notice, okay, don't build a house, don't build another house here, because you know eventually there's gonna be another. Likely to be a more commercial development here. That makes sense. What else? Thoughts?
I have another
Sure.
comment, hoteling again, on the subdivision for larger parcels, might be for Nan. I get the concept if you're trying to build 20 houses or 10 houses, but most of the people that have large parcels out in the ag res district just want to maybe subdivide 1 or 2 parcels off. So those are still going to be 4 acres minimum, right? So it's kind of counterintuitive to your keeping ag land and keeping development concentrated in a certain area.
Well, part of that is solved by letting smaller subdivisions use average lot sizes. So remember, it's density. So if you have a big parcel and they're eligible, ultimately, the whole parcel is eligible for 20 houses, but they only want to split off something for their kids, for instance. They don't have to subdivide the whole thing, but if they're eligible for 20 and they use one, then, you know, they have one small acre that they can build on, and all of the rest of the acre averages out to the 4. So if you have, so it's just math, so it does allow the flexibility of having a larger parcel, a minor subdivision with some smaller lots. When you use density instead of minimum lot size. The density would be calculated.
But if you didn't wanna use density, if you just wanted to sell one lot, it's gotta be 4 acres in the ag res.
No, it doesn't have to be 4 acres, it's not a minimum, it's not a maximum use of that land, it's. If you have 100-acre parcel. And so it's, or let's just stick with the 20-acre parcel, okay, that's easier for us to all wrap our heads around, right? So it's 4-acre density, and you don't do a conservation, you're entitled to 5 subdivisions of that land. They could be, you could take 16 acres, keep that for yourself, don't subdivide it, and put 1, 2, 3, 4 single 1-acre lots on there, and you've got 5 parcels left. You've taken you did I miss it? Oh, I need one more dwelling, don't I? Okay, keep the homestead on the original parcel of 20 acres, and then sell off 4 more. You'll have 5 dwelling units on that 20-acre parcel, but you're never, unless the law changes, which could happen in the future, which, you know, we don't have any control over that. Somebody, the next town board could decide, oh, scrap this whole thing. I mean, I know that's. Not, you know, I don't think it's so much work. Nobody's gonna want to tackle it for a while. But does that make more sense? So we're not saying you have to have 4-acre parcels. We're saying you can't have more than 5 dwelling units on that 20 acres.
Dwelling units or subdivision of that.
Say, well, it's
So 20 acres is small, so say a much larger parcel, right? So then.
So use the 100-acre.
Sure.
Example. I mean, Deb, can you provide, like, can you give an example, like, person wants to do this? I mean, like, something you have in mind?
Just say 100.
100 acres and
Right.
somebody wants to build a house or and wants to buy 2 acres. I would have to sell them 4, right?
no,
Right.
no. You can sell them 1.
2, whatever they want.
It's just like right now,
But
you
then how
don't have
good it
to, you
is.
don't have to fully subdivide a lot now.
So then how many subdivisions left would I have of 100 acres, of the 99 acres left?
25.
Well, what's, yeah,
24.
so if you're eligible for, say, if you're eligible for 30 units, they could be single family. They could be 2-family, I forget if we allowed multifamily,
Oh, yeah.
whatever, so, so if you have a parcel and you're eligible for 30 units. But you only want to sell 1 parcel in 1 unit, you have 1 parcel and. Then you have 29 left over to subdivide it again in the future if you want. And that, so that could be, that 1 lot that you sell could be big. If you wanted it to be big, or it could be smaller, if you wanted to set, if you could get. Water and septic system on a smaller lot, you could make a smaller lot.
So for your 100 acres, you get 25, you're under the 4 dwelling units per. For 4 acres, you get 25. Dwelling units that you can place in any configuration you want to. But there's no minimum. Lot size except what's gonna be dictated by health department saying, oh, well, you gotta have at least
Okay,
enough
I
land.
misread that. I thought the minimum lot size was 4 acres.
No, that's the difference. We're trying to avoid large minimum, we're trying to control the total number of homes that are built, but do it in a way that allows for smaller lots. And that's what you have to do, you have to get away from a minimum lot size.
Trust me, this is not easy to understand.
You have to doodle it on.
You have to just keep on play, I mean, it took us a long time before the town board could really digest it and own it, and even we struggle with it, right? You have to get your math skills on, make sure you're paying attention, doing your division right. But I think over time, you will get used to this notion, you will, you know, maybe we can do some more. Yeah, more examples, we've, some of them are obviously in the zoning law itself, they're in the, you know, so we're trying to make it as understandable as possible. We can work harder at that to give more, more training, we're gonna be training our staff and our code enforcement officer and the planning board to help them, so, you know, it's not gonna be, for most of the parcels in town, there isn't gonna be any change, right? Because most of them are, you know, the vast majority are less than 20 acres, and in the AR, just the residential, it's not gonna change, we're not changing the density. We're still letting people do conservation subdivisions and preserve open space, but we're not changing the density, so. It's gonna take a bit of time, and if it doesn't make sense to you tonight, you can keep on calling us up and asking questions, please do, because it took us a long time to figure it out, to get comfortable with it.
Yeah, I'm the newest member of the board. I've only been on it for 2 years and it's taken me about this long to fully understand it. So I think if anyone has any questions, just like to clarify, please, you know, shoot them at us because it really is kind of complicated.
Call us,
Yeah.
email us, come in to see us.
Once you get it though,
Yeah, it all makes sense.
it makes a lot of sense and it gives the landowner a lot more flexibility. I think.
It also keeps things more affordable, right? Because if we had a 5 acre minimum lot size, then we'd have to be selling 5, if you wanted to sell, you know. You have to be selling to people 5 acres, so all of a sudden it's $100,000 or, you know, $250,000, you know, in the village, lots are expensive. So we're trying to set it up so that it's more affordable, not less affordable. Because that's the only way to encourage more housing, and we need more people to stay here, fill the school, go to the businesses, you know, show up for the volunteer, for the fire department. I mean, we need more people. We're starting to shrink a little bit, and we're at kind of a tipping point. We don't want to go there. We don't want to grow really fast, but we know, I think we all, you know, if you read the paper, you know that Micron is coming to the north of us, and there will be, well, yeah, I think it's really going to come. I mean, it's just gonna take a while, and it's not gonna be maybe as large as, you know, projections, but we're gonna get more development. There's gonna be more people. And a lot of people are starting, we notice it at the planning board and the town board, people are moving to our community who are leaving other places that have fires, places that have droughts. You know, people are coming to upstate New York because it's beautiful here and the quality of life is good, schools are good, and they're coming to our town. So we're gonna get some, I hope, more people because more people to help pay the taxes, you know, to take care of, to fund the highway department, make it work. So.
I just want
Yeah.
another point, Deb, kind of more to your question about the density and the lot size or density. Is if you own a parcel of land, almost never, or very seldom, is all of that parcel able to be split up into 1 acre, or is it buildable? You may have real steep areas, swamp areas, but with the density approach, you get credit for all of that land that wouldn't normally be buildable. You might have to digest that. That's what I think here.
So equal.
Lorna?
So once you've maxed out your density, the land that's left over, is it, something that could never ever be developed, or is that subject to, you know, future change in zoning?
I would say it's subject to future change in zoning. I mean, it's not, there's no nevers. Right.
Well, unless there was an easement
Right.
placed, if it
A
was.
conservation easement.
Right.
If there was a conservation easement placed, then it would be never, but if it was, you know, for instance, if you created. A conservation subdivision and all of the 50%. Open space was put on, like, say, one big estate lot. For one home. You know, under current zoning, that wouldn't be subdividable again, but
Right.
if the density changed in the future, it might be. That's why I recommend in the text of the subdivision law, it recommends, it has deed restrictions and use of conservation easements to protect that open space. I mean, the notion is that we want to protect that open space.
Right, but I think for the non-conservation subdivisions, or let's say it's Deb's parcel, and she's not gonna have a conservation subdivision, she's gonna keep the land. And today, it's a 100-acre parcel, and so she gets the 25 lots, and that's gonna be, that's part of the law, it says from now on in, that's the density that you're allowed. And then she sells off 3 or 4 of those lots. There's four houses built and 1 house is left. But then 20 years from now, the law changes, then there's the flexibility. There's no deed restrictions stopping that land from being further subdivided. So there's still flexibility down the road. If for some reason we need every acre we have to live on. I mean, I think we need every acre, many acres we have to grow food on, but that's just my prejudice as a farmer, so.
I got a question, my name's Drew Dunham, and for personal use, what if I wanted to build my house on land? Would I have to subdivide it?
You don't have to subdivide it if you already own,
Okay.
you still have to go through the same things everybody else has to go through. You have to get a building permit, you have to make sure that you've got right amount of road frontage, you gotta have the buffer, if you have a farm next to you. If you're building after the farm was built, so there's the usual, or let's say you don't want to build a house, let's say you just want to put a business in, right? You're gonna have to meet the use table, so it's nothing, that hasn't changed. It's not really changing any of those other dynamics of the zoning law. Hopefully it's just clear. Wayne?
Why does the density change at plus or minus 20 acres?
It was arbitrary, I guess. Yeah, to some degree. I mean, we were trying to find a place where, with so many of the parcels in the town, outside in the ag residential district, there's so many more parcels that are less than 20 acres. We thought, okay, it's a compromise, really. We're giving a lot of people the right to keep on developing. Development isn't happening that fast, but it's happening. But we're achieving, and we're putting our money where our mouth was, in terms of not just where our mouth was, where you told us you wanted us to do, which is try to preserve open space. So larger parcels, that's where the line was drawn. So it was trying to find a good compromise, I think. So still giving a lot of freedom for a lot of people to develop their land as they have always done it. And then still trying to put something together reasonable that wasn't too restrictive. Had opportunities for larger landowners to still get use value, still get development value out of their property. So it's a compromise. I mean.
Well, if I had a 20-acre lot, I could build 4 dwellings, or
5.
5 dwellings, but if I tell you 10 acres, we could both build 10.
No,
No.
no. Once this law is passed, whatever the size of that lot is, the density will follow it forward. So if you have a 20-acre parcel and you're allowed 5 building, in 20 years, if this law is still in effect, it's still only allowed 5 buildings or 5 subdivisions.
And that stays the same, like 100 acres?
Yep.
Or 1,000 acres?
Depending on what the density would be. 100 acres would be 25 subdivisions or 25 dwellings.
But if it's 100 acres in the residential district, it's 100 dwellings. So it depends on where you're located. But again, we were trying to encourage more dense development closer to the village, which has the advantage of, so it's making it easier for people to develop close to the village. And just by the very fact of that happening, hopefully the development pressure is off of the major areas of good agricultural land. So again, because if you drive around and go to other communities, And you know, you go through some land that was once beautiful farmland and it's just all gone, you know, it's gone, it's all developed. Those are never gonna be built on again, so never gonna be farmed again. So I think that, and never gonna be open space, never gonna be forests, because those have been, that good land has been gone. So we're trying to find a compromise that meets the goals of the town residents and yet still allows rational development. And encourages a little bit of growth. Bruce, yep.
I have a question. Bruce Mosley, I live over on Williams Road, South Hamilton. I just have a question about, it's sort of a philosophical one, I guess. I know that the law is only limited to Hamilton, but in your consideration of it, did you think about or talk to the neighboring towns? For example, what happens in Brookfield when you cross the line, commercial district? Do they have anything similar? Do you even know?
We don't have any,
I mean, I say that because I think about the development that's happening on 12 Beach. In the town of Easton.
Right.
Yeah.
in the town, of Madison, we don't have any control and over what they do, and that's what, you know, home rule is, like.
Right, no, but I'm
each
just
community
asking
is.
the style.
There has not been any dialogue, no, I mean, we're not really, I think. Not, I mean, no, it never occurred to us, I think,
Well, no,
I have to say,
they did get the seeker notice.
yes,
And they were able, and.
they could have posted comments, but I mean, it's hard enough to get,
No, I know, I
Our
understand.
community together to
You're
try-
limited to the town of Hamilton.
right,
I was just curious because we all live in a larger area.
Yeah.
So that-
right, but jurisdiction.
Cross.
Yep, but that's, I mean, I think that is incredibly idealistic of you, Bruce, but I cannot imagine.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear.
I said, that's incredibly idealistic of you to imagine, I mean, having also lived in this area for a very long time, even just the relationship between the town of Madison and the town of Hamilton, or the village of Hamilton, in terms of development along 12
No, I
feet.
know.
It's been very difficult. There's no, each town has its own vision of what it wants, and
Yeah.
the twain do not meet. They don't, you know, it's good that we can talk to each other, but we don't have the same ideas.
Just curious.
That makes any sense?
Where do we find out about the flood damage prevention law, solar development, the solar development law and the short-term rental laws?
Okay.
Where are those?
They're all on the website. They're part of the new zoning law, the proposed zoning law. They're already, all three of those laws were already passed separately. So Sue, am I correct?
It's on the website under the town council or the local laws and resolutions, and I've got many of them up there. But of course, they were integrated in.
Right, so what, they were passed in the last, let's say, 5 years, I don't know exactly which, but they're now incorporated into the zoning law, so they basic into the proposed new zoning law, so people don't like lose track of them, I think is what, I'm trying to make it consistent, so people know, okay, you want to develop in the floodplain, here are the floodplain laws, they're part of the zoning law. And you'll notice there's a separate section, in the use table. No, the dimension table. What am I saying? For the flood zone area, right? There is one.
In the use table.
Yeah, in the use table.
Yep.
Yeah, so certain uses are allowed in the flood area and certain uses are not allowed for the very reason that people shouldn't be building in the flood. So, you know, they're more many. I mean, this is pretty much also state law, the flood. Once you adopt it, I mean, we had to adopt it essentially, so that happened. The solar law was something that was developed in response to solar development coming. It's our ability to control the type of solar development. Large scale solar development is totally limited by New York State law on parcels, on projects over 25 megawatts. Also, you know, I mean, we have a law that. What was the third one? Let's see, solar. Short-term rental was passed 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
23, I think.
23. Yeah, 19 in 2023. And it was, all these laws were publicly noticed. It's up there. And it just basically is designed, again, it was designed to limit the amount of short-term rental properties that were where people were converting single family homes and turning them into short term rentals, and we were losing more. Houses to people who from far away who just were coming and buying property, running a short term rental business. And we are losing those houses to average everyday people, so that we came up with, again, what we think is a compromise. You can have up to 30 nights. With a short term rental permit. Is permitted.
But the short-term rental law is not part of this new zoning law.
That's the law. That's true, thank you. That's a separate one, right, because I think we just mentioned it in the presentation as one of the things that happened that slowed the town board down. In terms of passing, I misspoke here, thank you, Lisa. One of the things, in terms of our finishing the zoning, the revised zoning law. The short-term rental issue became a very hot topic, both in the village and the town. And in response to that, that's why we passed that law, but that one is not incorporated into the new zoning law. Does that make sense, Lynn?
It is cited.
It's cited, but right, it is mentioned and, for example, I think under the conservation subdivision, you're not, I'm trying to remember, there's a specific limitation to using bonus units for affordable dwelling for short-term rentals.
Right, yeah, that's
Things are
restricted.
included in the use table.
Yeah. Laura,
Sorry, is there any minimums, square footage for residences? I mean,
yeah, the tiny homes is the minimum square footage.
Or was it 400 for a
It's
tiny
either
home?
400 or 500 square feet, I don't remember.
that doesn't change.
That's a definition, it's in the so there's a lot of definitions in the zoning law. You just look up tiny home and it says what it is and yeah,
And
so that's kind of as small as you can go.
Are they permitted only in certain areas or anywhere?
They're permitted as accessory dwellings, so like a, grandmother.
Right.
Yeah, along with, or you could have a development of, so you could do it on 10 acres, you could do, or 20 in let's say in the residential district, right? You want to have a development of tiny homes because there are a lot of folks that are seeing that they want to downsize, they don't want to own so much property, they don't want to maintain it. So you could have a development of tiny homes. And that they are also eligible as a dwelling unit. And treated as such, they can be their own independent dwelling unit.
It can be a primary residence.
Sorry, as
That's probably the best way to put it.
And so in this proposed zoning book, there are a lot of categories for lot size, minimum lot size. That show up in the tables. Is that going to be confusing for people? Looking at it.
What are you looking at? Are you looking at
All the tables seem to have.
you're actually looking at the zoning law?
Zoning district, so
The zoning-
zoning district.
Minimum lot size is the first category. Tables like page 25.
Yeah. Okay. Struggle to make sure, yeah, but, Dan, I'm gonna need your help on this.
Okay, I got it.
Difference, I think that's going to be reason, this is your final.
Yeah, well, we have minimum lot size in those tables, let's say on page 25. Oh, I don't, not to see very well.
Oh.
I can't see it, but
it's still not buttons.
There's the difference between minimum lot size and density. Yet they both come into play in the residential district. And one family dwellings have a minimum of one dwelling, 1 acre. In the residential district, and which equals to 1 dwelling unit per 1 acre, which is the next row down. But if you have public or common water or sewer, a 1 family dwelling could exist on an acre, right? And that converts to 1 dwelling unit per half an acre. And these categories of single family one family with public common water, two family dwellings, multifamily dwellings. Those are in our original zoning law. That's the way it's set up now. And then all the non-residential or agricultural uses require a minimum of 2 acres. Or one development, one use per 2 acres. So I think what we were trying to do is, what's the right word, translate for you? Is that, I'm grasping for a way to
Or
explain
a
this.
transition from what it
Yeah.
is to what it is.
Yeah, it's not really a transition, it's trying to create an equivalency. If you think it, I mean, we're totally open to your feedback. If you find it to be less defined, less confusing and less informative and more confusing.
I feel like if you have that in there, it's gonna. It's really not.
It has to be in there, because you have to have a minimum 1 acre to build a house because of the septic and the well issue. Somebody could still build or create 1 acre lots in certain circumstances, right? That's, you still have to have that as a baseline.
But,
If you have a special septic system, you could have less than that.
Yep.
With-
Yep, which is what the second row column over, one family dwelling with public or / common water and or sewer. So I think it's about, it's we're trying to get away from explaining everything as a minimum lot size and converting it to dwelling units.
Yeah, I mean, minimum lot size tells you, you know, how big the lot needs to be basically for water and septic. And fitting it in. The density tells you how many total homes you can fit on that parcel.
And so that's gonna be confusing.
It is, you know,
Okay.
honestly, it is confusing. I mean, because when you separate out lot size and density. You have to list them separately. They're looking at different things. The density tells you how many you get. And the density tells you, or the minimum lot size, in the RD district. You know, it didn't, I don't know if those numbers changed from what's there now. So it is, I think that. Maybe it's less. I mean, you could consider removing the density line in the RD in the Hamlet district. Cause those,
You mean minimum lot size?
Yeah, I think you might be better off, because what we did was convert the dwelling, the density line or row is same, it's the same
It's the same
information.
thing.
It's the same information.
right,
So it might be less confusing if everything was listed as density and not as
Yeah.
without, I think, is that what you're saying?
Yes.
I mean, we've stared at this for the last 5 years intensely, and it, you know, it's very easy to, and that's why we're here.
On track.
Yeah,
Can you do a conservation subdivision or a density bonus subdivision in RDs or, I mean, I thought it was just that grant.
nope, yep. There is some possibility for doing it's different, it has a different, you don't have to, you're not preserving, you don't have to preserve 50% of the open space, you only have to preserve 25% of the open space in order to get the bonus, but you don't get as big a bonus. So.
If that helps you learn it, I'm the secretary for the planning and zoning board, and I run this. So that's why I'm here. I thought it's validate this, but I have to change all.
I mean, we can change this. We have a public hearing in 2 weeks, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
So we haven't even, you know, our goal is to try to get this passed, but we can change it between now and then. If it, you know, it doesn't, if something is clearly less helpful to people, doesn't make sense, then I think we will definitely consider it for sure, because we want to make this as easy to understand as possible. So. We'll try. So stay tuned, come back to the public. Karen.
How will people know about the public hearing? More people than us.
the same way you found out. I mean, we're really limited by. Deb, okay, well, Deb, tell everybody.
I've been sending things to them.
We've been, we post on the website,
I put a poster up at the store.
yeah, you did it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I did.
Yeah.
But he didn't get any.
Yeah, we post on Facebook, we have it on the website,
It's on the packet here, so I have to save the date.
yeah,
It'll be here.
yeah, it'll be here again. So spread the word. I mean, we're not trying to, it's very, very hard to get the word out. Period. This will be publicly noticed as well in which page?
Yep, it's already
It's
gone.
already out.
I did it twice, so,
Okay.
Yeah.
Which paper?
You got-
Unico D, Observer District.
Give me a- Give me a
Yeah.
poster and I'll put it up
That's
at the
not-
store.
Okay,
Give me a poster and I'll put it up at the store.
Yeah, I didn't make a poster for this one yet. I just had the legal notice with all the blah blah
Okay,
and whereas language.
okay, but we can have one,
Yeah, I can create a flyer.
yep. Yeah. Definitely, we'll get a lot of round flyers out.
Do that, yeah.
But, tell people, spread the word. I mean, we're not trying to. Okay, anybody else have questions, thoughts? If not. Take some candy, take your papers with you, and come back and, don't hesitate to call us, send an email, give us a call. Everything, all our numbers are up on the, on the website.
Okay.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
So do. Yeah, I'll take it a lot.
They're both fine. Yeah.